So today, what we're playing around with, Brian, myself, Aiden, DJ Henderson, and Benjamin Eves has talked about this for a little while, but clay pot stills were very common. So not having necessarily access to exactly what would have been used way back when for distillation for clay pot stills, we bought this little 1 gallon clay pot that we're going to use for our base, for our boiler, and then we built a little copper helmet over here with an air-cooled condenser. A lot of the old alchemical stills also had air-cooled condensers. This is not so much recreating history exactly as an approximation as to what could have or possibly would have happened with a clay pot still. And the idea here is to see if the clay pot still gives us any flavor whatsoever that's a little bit different, or how a clay pot still runs versus a modern copper pot still or a stainless steel pot still. So what we're going to do today is we're actually going to use a little bit of low wine, which is basically the first run distillation of a mash made of primarily malted corn that's been smoked with a little bit of apple smoke. Not because it's traditional, but it's because what we have on hand right now. So it should be a fun little experiment. We're not going to run any water to the condenser whatsoever. The condenser itself, it's a nice cold day here in March in Indiana. That condenser is going to be cooled by air alone and air only. So the condensate off of this still literally has no water running to it to condense it. It's just cold air, the atmosphere itself. Should be a fun little experiment. We did try to run this little still earlier on a wood fire setup. It's too inconsistent, and so there's only so many hours in a day. So what we're going to do this time is we're actually going to run off a little bit of propane and a propane burner. And again, the goal here is not to imitate history exactly. It's to get an idea of what was happening with those old-fashioned clay pot stills. There are still clay pot stills in existence to this day. They're still used commercially for mezcal production. You'll see a lot of them in the Middle East as well as in the Orient, where they're used for sochu and baijiu and things of that nature. So this will be a fun little experiment between, you know, kind of modern hybrid sort of thing. So some new school stuff with the air-cooled condenser, the way that it's built, versus the old-fashioned air-cooled condenser, and some old-school open flame clay pot distillation. We don't have a historic clay pot. What we have is a $38 Amazon clay pot, which is what we could get for the day. It's 1 gallon capacity right here, basically, that Aiden just poured 70 proof low wines into. So little copper helmet, not the best made in the world, but it works just fine for what we're going to do. And then air-cooled condenser. This came from moonshinesupply.com. I can't remember. Anyway, Russell Creed, good friend of mine over in St. Louis, Missouri, made this. A lot of the old stills were made again with air-cooled condensers. Very rarely was water ever used because it was very hard to get pumped water into a still. So using the air to condense is a traditional thing. And what we're going to do is we're going to put this cap on top of this clay pot, and then on this clay pot, if you can see, there's a little, maybe a half-inch little ledge here. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to lute that up with a little bit of flour mixed with water, and that'll seal everything in place. And we'll start the fire underneath of it, and hopefully this air-cooled condenser with the cold weather we're having today will give us a distillate that is worthwhile.
Oh, jeez. Alan commented, Kid Rock snorts more coke than there is snow on that lot.
Golly. So we're now running the pot still, obviously, and as you can see, we're probably getting a little vapor. So it's not incredibly efficient. You're going to lose a little bit of alcohol to the vapor. But just for shits and giggles, we've now run a clay pot still with an air-cooled condenser. And we don't have enough volume here to actually figure out what our proof is, unfortunately. So we're going to do something a little dangerous and a little risque. So we're going to take the 4 shots and heads here off of this distillation. This is the second distillation. We're going to throw them on the fire, see what color flame we get off of it. So I don't know why we wouldn't, right? That's why we're in the middle of nowhere doing this. All right, you ready? I thought Aiden was moving back like, no, I'm not ready. Okay. So there's a little proof on that. What do you guys say?
Mm-hmm.
Burn off fast and clean. Say we're probably in maybe the 130 proof range. It's not a blue flame. It's got a lot of orange in there, so it's not real high proof. But we've now proven that you can distill with a clay pot still and an air-cooled condenser, at the very least. That distillate's pretty good. Really. It's not bad. It's a little more earthy, a little more robust than you typically get off the pot still.
Very earthy.
Yep.
That's good.
Right?
It's not bad though. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. For throwing together a little shorthand project.
That's some good flavor.
Right? Heavy flavor.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say the proof of concept is there.
Yep.
Right? So the next goal for something like this would be to actually get a hand-thrown pot of some sort that'll hold up to flame. With an actual ceramic pot still head that would be rounded like onion shaped. And then maybe make that like an aquatar, where what you're doing is you'd have a bowl of cold water on top of the head and use that to condense everything into the still with a ledge on the inside of the pot still head to catch that distillate and come out the side on. And that would be the true traditional way to run a clay pot still. Either way though, I mean, I'm fairly certain this is probably the first time a clay pot still's ever been run in Indiana. So I'd say that makes history itself one way or the other.